thank Vadim again for doing all this research, because this is one of the areas I've become acutely aware of, and it's too much to figure out how to navigate. Like, I'm really glad somebody has taken it on to figure it all out. So take it away, Vadim.
Sounds good.
You want to come up with your own brand of yogurt, man? You got the right last name.
Yes.
Actually, my name means surrounded by roses in German.
Nice. Score.
Like the Gert, like, you know, like the thing around you, and then, yeah.
Cool.
Ancestors on my dad's side from Bavaria.
Oh,
They came to Ukraine in the 19th century from Bavaria.
Wow. Nice.
It's a long time ago.
You're surrounded by roses.
Sure, they're there too.
Okay. So I'm gonna try to make this like interactive, where I'm going back and forth and like talking to you guys as I'm presenting,
Okay.
and we'll make it fun. So as kind of my intro was brought up earlier,
Where is that school that you went to? Where is that?
John F. Kennedy University is in Pleasant Hill.
Yeah.
It was started like in 1964. It was initially like in Martinez for a few years, and then moved to Orinda for 30 years. And then it moved to Pleasant Hill in '04. And that's when I joined there, and I did a health science degree there, and I did an MBA program there.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, and
Is it at the old Pleasant Hill High School?
no, it's on Ellenwood. You can see it off the freeway. It actually it was because it wasn't set up for online schooling. So when the shutdowns happened in March of 2020, that school was basically like closed for 2.5 years.
Wow.
And then it was bought by National University, and at the end of 2002, and they resurrected it.
Wow.
Yeah, just barely.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it was saved. Anyway, so anyway, that was my initial intro. I did a health science degree there in '04. I was training in Jeet Kune Do martial arts, and I was getting injured almost every class and wanting to recover and do better. So I started getting into herbalism. I started first initially with Amazon herbs. That was my first exploration, South American herbs. And then I kind of got into the Chinese herbs, the Ayurvedic herbs. So that kind of went on. And then in 2012, I started, I did a permaculture program at Merritt College. So you guys familiar with permaculture?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so the growing of food in like tight spaces and urban habitats and being creative with resources. I did that. And then in 2012, I got a job as a nutrition consultant at the Food Mill in Oakland. And that's the oldest health food store in the Bay Area. It's been there since 1933.
Cool. Nice.
And between 2012 and 2021, I worked there for 5 years. There was like a break in the middle, but it was like 5 years total. And at that time, I started seeing clients at the store. And around that 2013 range, the ketogenic diet became really popular. And like Dr. McCullough, Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof guy, various like kind of like pop culture, holistic health people were really kind of talking about it. And there was also like a famous dermatologist called Perricone. I don't know if you guys know who he is.
Yes.
He was like big on like holistic skin health with nutrition and stuff like that. So there was a big component of like healthy fats for the skin that also resurfaced with him. And then in my research, I realized that when an embryo is developing in the first few weeks, the skin and the brain evolve for the same embryonic tissue.
Wow.
So very often you'll find what's good for the brain is also good for the skin. So a lot of the oils that are good for the brain are also going to make your skin better and healthier and looking like fresher. So that was an interesting kind of little thing that came about, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's again, a lot of times folks will do more for their skin than for their brain.
Right.
That's just the way it is. So that's another. So basically, anytime you see the word brain nutrition, you might as well just put skin right there with it as well.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And so I did this presentation one other time, and that was in 2014. It was at my friend's holistic health clinic in Concord. And so basically it's been 10 years since I've done this presentation, and I'm excited to once again do it with all the new things that I've learned in the last 10 years that I didn't know back then. So
Cool.
that's the gist of it. So I guess we can go to the next slide.
Who's clicking?
Karen's back there.
Okay.
So
Master behind.
I try to make all my fonts readable without me having to read it. So they're all like 30 and above, so you guys should be able to read them pretty good.
Yeah.
So I have it broken down into 5 parts basically. One kind of builds on the other, and once we get into these, we can. I'll ask you guys about if you have any recipes and all that kind of stuff. We'll go back and forth, and so that's the breakdown of it. That's how it's gonna unfold here.
And switch.
Yeah. So yeah,
Okay.
so this is me and Peppa and Sedona
Hey.
in February.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Dolphins, that was in Mexico.
Nice.
So one of the things that motivated me about this, getting this information out there, is that bad brain nutrition creates bad neighborhoods,
Wow.
and that seems to be
And that what?
Yeah.
bad brain nutrition creates bad neighborhoods.
Yep.
So you just sit with that for a minute. Sit with that for a minute. Like, of all the bad neighborhoods that you've seen in the U.S. maybe elsewhere, how many of those young people probably have some pretty bad brain nutrition coming up, very inflamed in the brain, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So deficient not only fats but antioxidants and other things that they probably amino acids are needed, and that goes back to the idea of the food desert and poor neighborhoods, things that we still have to fix in many ways. So
You suggesting a conspiracy?
I'm very much so, yeah. there's the spider, right? There's the spider. The cabal. Okay.
A little symbology slip in there.
Yeah. So basically, the idea is the cell membrane is kind of like the most important player in this conversation. You want to keep the cell membrane permeable and structured and flexible. So basically nutrients can flow in and out. So the healthy fats are going to make that so, whereas some of the bad fats and damaged fats will also get into your membrane, but they're going to do things that are not good. So that's kind of where everything kind of ends up, is in the cell membrane. And that's what we're trying to kind of hack, so to speak, in this case. So this is kind of like a little basic like cell biology. You have the rest, how healthy cells metabolize, breathe, and excrete. So that's kind of like a diagram. And yeah, basically the mitochondria is like the power plant of the cell, and you want those nutrients to power the mitochondria, because that's where the cell gets energy from. And for that to happen, there has to be, of course, oxygen, and the cell membrane has to be permeable. So the structural portion of the brain, the part that's like not like water, is about 60% fat. The brain is mostly water, but the part that's not water is about 60% fat. So you have that, and so part of the installation and the signaling, the essential fats are essential for that. Okay, so healthy fats as hormone balancers, precursors, regulators, and stress managers. So this is kind of the direction we're going here, anywhere from anything from the algae down to even some veggies to a lesser extent, but they still have some of the omega-3 ALAs in it. Okay, so the endocrine system. And so as part of brain nutrition, we're also talking about glands in the brain and glands elsewhere in the body, but particularly the brain. You're targeting these 3 glands. They're also kind of heavily tied to consciousness, enlightenment, awareness, part of the whole thing of bad neighborhoods created by bad brain nutrition. People's glands are not being activated. They're not getting that third eye is not opening. And all these glands, they correspond with the 7 chakras. How many of you guys know that all the glands correspond with the 7 chakras? Everybody here know that?
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay, so like the ovaries and the testes would be the root. The pancreas is tied into the solar plexus. The thymus gland is the heart. The thyroid gland, parathyroid, is the throat. You have the adrenal glands are actually the sacral. They're kind of here in the base in the back, and then you have pineal gland is the third eye, and the crown is kind of like a pituitary hypothalamus kind of. Both of them kind of fit in there. So, so how you guys heard of this doctor? I went to the Women's Wellness Conference in 2014 and 2015 that she was a part of, and I was listening to her audiobook, which is this book here. I recommend the audiobook version of this. It was a really good for beginners, especially. I mean, it's good for women for all ages, but especially like women in their like 20s and 30s could really benefit if you have like daughters or other friends that are younger. Definitely like have them turned on. And so the hormones of interest which we're looking at with these nutrients would be these right here, trying to get them in the right place. How many of you guys know leptin? Anybody not know what leptin is? So leptin is what controls your hunger. If you have leptin resistance, you're going to be hungry more often. So you're trying to with the healthy fats, you're trying to kind of get your leptin in balance. So that's a good hormone. Do some more research in. That's kind of like your hunger hormone. All right. So the great cholesterol myth. So when we talk about fats, a lot of folks, this is like the 1970s, 80s conversation that they started telling us watch the cholesterol and like, you don't eat eggs, don't eat butter, be careful with the meats and all that kind of stuff. Well, like it says here, cholesterol is basically kind of works as a band-aid within your blood vessels. If you have like oxidation, inflammation, or any kind of wounds forming in your blood vessels, cholesterol is going to go in there. And it's going to like fill in the gap. So when people have damaged blood vessels, they will have elevated cholesterol, but the cholesterol is there as a sort of a band-aid, basically a band-aid to go in there and fix what's already been damaged.
And same for the brain.
Yeah, and yeah, cholesterol for the brain. It's raw material for hormone creation. Cholesterol is, and that's why people that are on statins or different drugs that lower cholesterol, their hormones are thrown off a lot of times, and they got other like mental health problems and different things that come up with the cholesterol blocking medication. So the idea is, as I get into some of the foods later, you want that HDL and LDL to be in proper ratio, and the HDL LDL ratio is what's more important than the total amount of cholesterol.
So, Vadim, what does that stand for, HDL or whatever?
Low density lipoprotein and high density lipoprotein.
I see. Okay.
So it's basically the cholesterol is carried on a protein molecule. So technically LDL and HDL is not even like a cholesterol, but it's like they bind together and then they're carried together. Yeah.
If somebody is like, say, on statin drugs, is that a good book to get them? Like if they're at that level of understanding about it?
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet, but Dr. Asim Malhotra, do you follow him from the UK?
I've seen like clips of this. Yeah.
So he's written a book quite some time ago about statins. And the thing is, your brain is made up, a lot of it is fat.
Yeah.
And the statins clear fat. They literally eat your brain away. I mean,
Yeah.
and the Alzheimer's drugs are made to remove I'm trying to think what it's called. It's amyloid. The amyloid
Plaque.
Plaques, yeah.
They said, hey, we discovered it's amyloid plaque in the brain, and that's what's causing, and they still keep making drugs in that direction. And that's the Band-Aid.
Oh.
That's the Band-Aid. It's because there's inflammation in the brain, so it's created that to protect the brain.
Wow, wow.
So the
wow,
drug is to
Wow.
go in there and do that. It's
Oh,
it's
boy.
not the right approach. And,
Right.
and Dr. Dale Bredesen, who was this first CEO at the Buck Institute, I met him.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I got to know him, and that was before he wrote his book and everything, but I knew when I met him, oh my God, this guy is amazing. And he really did become amazing.
Yep.
But he opened up to this too,
Yep.
because 32 years, he goes, I should have listened to my wife sooner. She's a functional medicine
neighbors.
doctor, she's
Yeah.
not gonna be one magic pill,
Right.
it's everything. So he's got this whole Bredesen protocol.
Let's
Yeah.
get back to
Yeah.
Okay, so what are hormones made from? Yeah, so basically, like I was mentioning, cholesterol is a big role to play, and a lot of that cholesterol is going to be made also in your liver. More of it circulating out of your liver than actually from the food intake. So even if somebody's a vegan, they have like no animal products, they're still going to have cholesterol. It's going to be made in your liver, nonetheless, to a certain extent, because you need it for different processes in the body. And so upgrading liver function is actually like part of all of this as well. It makes everything better. And so yeah, like I was mentioning, low density lipoprotein and LDL adds cholesterol to plaque. So it kind of carries it, like I was mentioning it. And then the triglycerides, that number is actually a good number to watch. And that number you want to keep at a good place, because triglycerides are blood fats. These are free-floating fats in your blood, and those you can accumulate those through like too much sugar or just bad diet in general. They could form and be free-floating in your blood. So that's actually, triglycerides is like more of a concern than total cholesterol for sure.
Can they test for that?
They test for
blood
that.
tests?
Yeah, typical blood tests are pretty good at telling you. That's actually like one of the basic things they test for. There's a ratio of like HDL in proportion to triglycerides that has a good, that number gives you a good indication of something. I forget the exact equation on that, but those two are in proportion to one another.
And they can test that proportion.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So what creates triglycerides in the body?
It's going to be, I would say, people that are not exercising in proportion to the amount of carbs and sugar they're eating. Like they're not active enough for the amount of empty calories they're taking in.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I would say that's a huge part of it.
Do we all need to have some? I mean,
Yeah. There's a right number for triglycerides. Yeah, there's
Okay.
a good number.
Okay.
There's a good range for that.
It's healthy fats, right? I mean, isn't that the main
Well,
thing?
triglycerides is just it's like free floating fat in your bloodstream.
But I mean, to have healthy levels would be, again,
Yeah, good
eating
thing.
well and eating
Yeah.
good fats.
It is a source of energy too. It's just like when you have too much of it, then it becomes a problem.
Is it the same thing for LDLs? Is there a good proportion of that?
There's a good proportion of LDL. Yeah, you need some LDL, and you also, it's just that ratio between LDL and HDL has to be in a nice place.
Yeah.
In a nice place. So basically, it's just getting that HDL high enough, and that's going to be some of the things we talk about in terms of the foods, is to get that HDL up, and that's going to be a big part of what we talk about. Yeah, so basically, one thing the healthy fats do, like the butter we put on our tea, is it helps you with intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is a great way to burn body fat and basically be in a state of lightness, like where you could, if you want to only eat 2 times a day, you can do it, and your mood will still be in a good place, your brain will still work. But in order for it to do that, you need your calories to burn slowly. And fast is burned slower. So like that's just to intermittent fast, whether you're eating 1 meal a day or 2 meals a day on this fast, the fast will make it a lot easier to do. there's a reason why cars run on oil and not on crackers.
Oh, that's a good.
Yeah. So basically, the idea here is the energy density, right? You can think of a car needs a lot of energy, and there's density in the oil that makes the car run, right? So it's the same, just a simple visualization.
So in that respect, we're like cars.
I mean, there is a combustion component to us. Yeah, there is a combustion. Yeah.
Right.
The exhaust comes out of our mouth and nose. You know.
Right,
Yeah.
right, wow.
So this is kind of the mitochondria. So the mitochondria is the power plant within our cell that makes it possible to consume fats as nutrients. Cells that don't have a mitochondria, they can't consume fats. So like a yeast cell, like a fungus cell, basically they ferment sugars. So like when you're making like a kombucha or a beer or like a wine or whatever it is you're making, where there's fermentation involved, that organism can't consume fat because it doesn't have a mitochondria. Cancer cells have a dysfunctional mitochondria or no mitochondria, and so that's why they thrive off of high sugar, high carbohydrate diets, and that's one of the reasons why people have used ketogenic diets as a way to support their cancer therapy if they're doing it holistically.
What kind of diet?
Ketogenic.
Oh, really?
So a ketogenic diet is basically a diet where about 70% of your calories are coming from fat. About 70 to 80. And that's used like about 10 years ago, the ketogenic diet was like a big craze, right? It was like a big thing. Bodybuilders were using it because they were able to cut body fat very quick. It was being used for like dementia, it was being used for diabetes prevention or stopping diabetes, for addressing cancer. And it can still be used for all those therapies, but now people have found out they have to cycle off of it and take breaks from it. So if you don't have a condition where like you need that ketosis state, then it's better to take breaks from being on a keto diet, because you're going to probably become deficient in some things, and it's very difficult to do responsibly for a long period of time unless you're really dialed in to your nutrients. But as a therapy for addressing certain conditions, in particular cancer, it will support any herbal program, any kind of holistic program somebody's already doing for that reason. So, and then the reason, again, the mitochondria that we have is what makes it possible for us to use fat as fuel, whereas other kinds of cells don't have it.
So for somebody like me who needs to gain weight desperately,
Yeah.
what kind of these healthy fats are best?
So we're about to go into the specific foods here pretty soon. We're gonna dial into those. Yeah, we're gonna dial in. We're gonna have a whole list of them coming up here in a second. Okay, healthy fats optimize ATP production, thus energy. So that's kind of, you guys, what we talked about just now. You guys get the idea there? Okay, so healthy fats we can't consume. So this is kind of the breakdown list. Saturated fat, cholesterol, omega-3 and 6 are the essential fatty acids, which means if you don't have those, you're in trouble. Whereas the other ones, you can survive without them, but you won't thrive as much. But with those two, you must have them. So the 3 and the 6s. Omega-5 I don't know much about, but it is in salmon to a lesser extent, and it's also in pomegranate seed. So it is a healthy fat, but I'm still like trying to figure that one out a little bit more. It's one that I'm not that familiar with. Omega-7 is high in macadamia nuts. It's also in sea buckthorn oil. It's not that common, but it's really good for your skin.
And wild salmon.
Wild salmon, yeah. It's not that common, but it's that one's a major one for your skin. Is a 7.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then the omega-9, the monosaturated, that's going to be the big one for the HDL balance. So for getting that HDL right, that's going to be the omega-9, the monounsaturated. So we'll get into specific ones of that. But the nuts, seeds, avocados, and olives is like basically where that omega-9 really comes into the picture. And then the phospholipids is from the pastured eggs, and lecithin, and marine phytoplankton, which we'll get into a little bit as well.
So Vadim, those foods on the right, they generally speaking correspond to that list over the left. They're not all omega-3 and omega-6s, for example.
Yeah, they're basically all of them. They're all of them. They pertain to
Okay.
all of them. Yeah.
Okay. So it would be good to have, for a healthy person, to have all of those foods right there to the right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you get like just free range eggs that aren't from a pasture, that's suggesting they're not the same.
So pastured is like when the chicken is basically lives is in the grass, walking around eating bugs. Whereas free range is they're let out of the cage, but they could be still in the barn. They're just walking around. It's not as ideal as pasture, because pasture the chicken is eating things beyond just grains. They're catching things from the ground.
Natural.
They're eating like protein. They're eating bugs. They're eating things, snails. They're eating, versus free range is still like they're still contained in the matrix. They're still they're not being tortured like all the way, but they're still in the matrix. So they're,
So does it say? I've never noticed on egg cartons. Will it say?
It'll say pastured eggs, and those are substantially more expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Substantially.
9 or 10 a dozen.
Yeah. Those are like $1 an egg or something. It's pretty wild.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Oh, they're worth it,
Yeah.
but they're
That's what I'm
nutritional.
kind
Yeah,
of-
you buy them from like
It said
farmers
coconut.
market.
You can get two
Coconut oil.
dozen at
Yeah.
Costco for about like $8-9.
Oh, wow.
For the pastured one.
Organic pasture.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Yeah, and coconut oil for people with high LDL, it directly raises high LDL. So that's not actually good for people with high LDL.
Well, I have high HDL, and I
That's
have
a good
pretty
one.
high LDL,
Uh-huh.
and so I have high cholesterol. And my doctor said, "What are you doing? I've never seen such good cholesterol levels in somebody your age, ever."
Wow.
And what do you
And-
attribute it to?
I mean, I said, well, maybe it's the healthy fats, I mean, I don't eat perfect, but
Which
I'm
would be
aware of
listed
this.
like a lot of
But
coconut oil.
the thing, low cholesterol is bad. Like this
Yeah.
woman that I used to work with, she's a master herbalist. She's
So what
been a
are the
doctor.
main
And
things?
hers is low, and she always said it's
So
bad.
Janine, what are the main foods that you eat where you think you get your healthy fats from?
I mean, I do the grass-fed butter. I do ghee and coconut oil, and it's
So-
pastured. And
Okay, so
I'm
you
not
do
doing
that
a lot
stuff.
of eggs right now, but that's olives. Yeah.
Okay.
Coconut
cool.
oil.
And
I
raw oil, raw oil.
I cook with coconut oil.
I mean, olive oil.
What are some other ways that we consume coconut oil? Because I cook
you
fry
can
with
you
it.
can do coconut butter.
Coconut butter.
Yeah, which is basically it's not just the oil. It's actually the protein of the coconut and the carbs of the coconut. So you're getting kind of the more of a complete
Yeah.
of the nutrients of the coconut. Yeah.
And so there's butter, coconut butter.
Coconut
there's
butter, yeah.
Other things with coconut in it. Oil.
So then there is the coconut flakes.
Oh, like
Coconut
chips,
flakes. Yeah, chips like coconut
You bake
chips.
with them, yeah.
Yeah.
What are they?
They're like
Coconut
chips.
chips.
They're like
Oh,
coconut
chips.
chips.
Shavings.
They're shavings, not actual chips that you
Yeah.
can actually eat like with your fingers.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Huh.
Yeah, and so, but I have a whole section coming up here on coconut because coconut is actually good for your immune system too. There's other things going on with coconut beyond just even the oils. So that's just the oil is just a factor of it, but it's a good food altogether.
It's
But-
antifungal.
Yeah. So that's so we can go to the next one. So basically, these are the ones that you don't want to heat and don't want to bake with, don't want to fry with, because they're the polyunsaturated, which means poly means they have multiple openings to them. So when the molecules have multiple openings, and so when they're hit by heat, they become rancid and damaged basically. And so when you consume them and they get into your cell membranes, they basically cause problems in your cells. So even more so than like sugar would, because sugar you can get out of your system pretty quick, but that actually incorporates into your cells. So the cheap restaurants,
Yeah.
that's the main problem with eating out at cheap places, is the bad oils. Cottonseed and corn oil, I don't see any scenario where either of those would be a good idea, just because the likelihood of those being GMO is super high. And it's not practical to make organic corn oil, because the companies that make corn oil are the big agro companies, like the Mazola, those buckets of Mazola, remember from the 80s, those things. So I would just corn oil. Cottonseed oil is found in those like gas station snacks, like the peanuts and the corn nuts and
I know.
the different kinds of like cheap chips. That's a lot of you can see a lot of cottonseed in that. The soybean oil. So sunflower, canola, and safflower, they can all be good. They just don't heat them. Don't heat them.
So in other words, you're saying the stuff on the left is a possibility, but check the label to make sure they're cold pressed?
Well, what's going to be cold pressed are going to be these
And
three.
don't cook with them.
Are going to be these three. Are going to be cold pressed, because people will pay big money for those three. Like to where it's worth it for a person to cold press those things manually. It takes a person to do it.
Oh, wow.
So with like cold pressed olive oil is 2 or 3 times more expensive, because there's somebody, like a person, doing it. So it's like more physical, there's more labor involved. And so people will pay $20 for a thing of flaxseed oil, hemp oil, fish oil, but they won't pay that much money for the other ones. So the likelihood of those other ones being cold pressed is very low, just because it would be really expensive to do it. But even worse than them being not cold pressed is then baking or cooking with them, or frying with them. That's even worse than them being cold pressed. So that's basically the gist on that.
I heard that seed oils start going rancid as soon as they're pressed, whether you heat them or not.
I would say the omega-3s, like the fish oil, the hemp, and the flax, those are very sensitive. They have to be refrigerated right away. Yeah, the 3s in particular are very sensitive. Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot about stay away from seed oils. Like the Weston Price Foundation is like absolutely no seed oils.
Yeah.
And then also canola oil, like I try to stay away from that as much as possible. I'm probably getting it if I eat out.
Yeah.
But I've heard what they do is they put it through a chemical process, hexane, to get the rancidity smell out of it and flavor.
Yeah.
So it is, and it's very inflammatory.
Yeah, the industrial, the reason it's so cheap is there's a lot of machinery involved and chemicals. When you see a big thing of oil and it's very cheap, that's already bad news.
Yeah.
That's really bad news, because it's been put through something. That's gonna create the triglyceride problem. That's gonna create the blood vessel damages that people. Why the cholesterol is sticking in the blood vessels in the first place. That's going to create the scarring, different things, and different problems. So
and you put peanut on there too, right? Because the Asians use it a lot.
well, peanut is actually high omega-9. It's mostly omega-9.
Okay.
Yeah. So peanut, out of all of the restaurant oils, peanut is the best.
Okay.
Yeah, because that one's more omega-9 with a little bit of 6 in it.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
Vadim, it's 10 of 9.
Yeah.
And I have an agreement with my housemate to kind of end at 9. Is there a way that we can go, because everybody's going to get this PDF, go through and just focus on the most important stuff.
All right. So we'll go as and we'll go as fast as possible. Okay. So yeah, the omega-3 is the one that you have to be careful of for deficiencies the most, because that will cause the most problems the fastest, but you need the least of it to make a difference. Even like 1.5 grams of omega-3 will make a huge difference versus 0 at all. So like, it causes problems the quickest when you don't have it, but you need the least of it. Okay.
And all those things on the right are sources of omega-3?
Omega-3s, yeah. Either ALA, there's 3 kinds of omega-3s. There's EPA, there's DHA, and there's ALA. Yeah, and they're all good. They're all good. Okay, so a little bit about the whales and dolphins, some inspiration from them. So when you look at the nervous systems and brains of whales and dolphins, their intelligence, their emotions, their mentality, the way they harmonize with one another, they're probably our closest relatives from a personality standpoint in the animal kingdom. Like they're like a dolphin is more symbiotic to us versus a chimpanzee, even though a chimpanzee looks more like us. But they have a nervous system that's advanced and developed more like ours. So what are they eating? So this is the longest living whale. The bowhead whale lives around 200 years. They're eating phytoplankton, zooplankton, and krill. And then there's the blue whale that also has a pretty good longevity, up to 100 years. The bowhead whale that was in an earlier one, it has the most densest balines of all the whales, which means it is best at filtering out marine phytoplankton into his body, the best. And the marine phytoplankton is the most nutritious part of the ocean food chain. It's the bottom of it. All right, so let's go next. Okay, so marine phytoplankton as the basis of the food chain in the ocean, and we can also consume it ourselves. And it's the most complete food in the world in terms of being balanced between carbs, proteins, and fats, and also the minerals and the enzymes. So some of the health benefits of marine phytoplankton. And so over the years, I've tried some marine phytoplankton. I haven't used it for a long time because I've been doing the climate algae more so in recent years. But if you guys want to try some marine phytoplankton, these are 2 companies that I know are legit. So you guys will have that info.
Yeah.
And then there is the spirulina, and then there's the blue-green algae. The spirulina has GLA, which is a very special omega-6 that's anti-inflammatory. And it's also really good for the skin as well too. And then the cloudflake blue-green algae has omega-3 as well in it.
Is chlorella in that category? Then?
Chlorella doesn't have, that one's more protein and more amino acids and more higher in chlorophyll. So it's better for that reason. But it doesn't have the omegas like these 2 have it. So the cold water fish for omega-3 sources, you want the cold water fish basically because like the tilapia, like the more tropical fish, they're not going to have as much fat because the water's not cold. So the colder the water, you're going to have more omega-3s in it. The Tin Man metaphor. The Tin Man needs oil to kickstart his heart, right? So yeah, he needed to get oiled up there. So what does the Tin Man want more than anything else? Is chocolate. Yeah. So it's a combination of omega-9 and saturated fat on the most part. And then you have all those special nutrients for consciousness and for mood and everything else that are carried through the fat. That the fat helps you absorb all those nutrients that are in the chocolate, and including the antioxidants, the theobromine, the theophylline, all that kind of stuff. So that's fallback. Cashew, that's a fruit, and the cashew, that's the largest cashew tree in the world.
Whoa.
It's in Brazil, yeah.
Wow.
And that's the base of it. So it spindles out.
Wow.
Yeah, it spindles out.
Wow.
And so the cashew is mostly omega-9, and that one's good for smoothies. It creates a very nice base for smoothies, a very creamy base. Cashew butter, of course, as well is great as a carrier. So you can make a lot of desserts, a lot of good things with cashew as a base. If you need something to taste good, cashews will make it happen.
Yeah.
You know?
I made a curry sauce with it.
Yeah, high in copper too. That's the special
Cashew
thing.
milk base.
Yeah, good for the blood vessel integrity, HDL, LDL ratio. So that, if you want the HDL, LDL ratio, this is going to be one of the ones that you want to get into. And then avocados, this is what an avocado orchard looks like. Yeah, vitamin E. So you have the fats and you have the fat soluble vitamin E, which you need the fats to carry the vitamin E into your system. Also great for smoothies. It has the plant sterols in there for the HDL LDL balance. Alkaline, not too many fats are alkaline. This one happens to be alkaline, slightly alkaline. Yeah. This is David Wolf's memes because he's David Avocado Wolf. Yeah, so that's his meme. That's his meme lab. That's where he gets. That's where he sends his memes from.
Very cool.
Olives and olive oil. So why does Popeye like olive oil? Because the Popeye is the third eye, and olive oil is good for the pineal gland.
Oh my gosh, did you figure that out?
I think I heard it, and then I put my own twist. Put my own twist to it.
That's great.
Yeah. So this is some olive orchards. So the polyphenols, the gut bacteria, the antioxidants, blood flow to the brain. Probably one of the best foods for stroke prevention, as well too. Yeah, it's very special, all the way. This is the oldest olive tree in the world. This is on island of Crete. It's beyond 2,000 years. It could be 3,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
I saw that tree.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We were there.
Wow. Cool.
These are the olive trees in the Garden of Gethsemane. In the Bible, this is where Jesus was arrested after the Last Supper. And there's a whole. I was there with my dad in 2009. There's a whole ancient olive trees that are around, really ancient there, as well too.
Wow.
Okay, the acai berry. This is a high-fat fruit from the tropics. Yeah, it has 6, 9 and saturated fat in it. Yeah, it tastes amazing. It's great. That red, purplish color is great for the eyes. That's a acai picker right there, climbing the palm tree. Yeah, that's what the palm trees look like. Anthocyanins, those pigments are amazing. It also has amino acids in it too. So now we'll get into the coconut. So besides the fats for the brain and the skin and all that stuff, you have the antifungal component, which is the caprylic acid. Someone has candida. You have the other, the lauric acid, other things that are good for the immune system in there. So that's the special one. And then you have macadamia nuts, which is going to be great for the skin, also with the HDL, LDL balance, the omega-7. Yeah, Dr. Mercola is a big fan of macadamia nuts. The hemp seed is the most bioavailable of all the seeds. It has the edestin and albumin are the proteins that are very digestible. If somebody's like in their 80s, 90s, or 100 or so, this should be one of their primary protein sources, along with fat sources, because they're going to be able to digest it. Hemp seeds just kind of like, they just kind of melt inside of you, into your system really easily. You don't have to do much chewing, they just kind of get into you. So they also have omega-3, which is rare among seeds. Not too many seeds have omega-3 in it too.
So is this the end?
No.
Well, it's not.
There it goes, there it goes.
Okay,
Yeah.
whoops.
Yeah, we're getting close, we're getting
Oh.
close.
Oh.
You went to the very end. Okay, next one. So you have flax seeds and chia seeds. A great way to get your fiber bonded to omega-3s. So you're gonna get the fiber and you're gonna get full. The Brazil nuts is probably the highest. This and macadamia are the highest fat of all the nuts. But you're also getting some magnesium, copper, and the selenium in there also as an antioxidant to protect the cells. Yeah, that's a big one. A walnut is considered a tonic herb in Chinese medicine. Is good for the kidney organ system, and it looks like a brain. You know, so it has that correlation with the looks to it too. Also omega-3, which is rare in nuts. And then you have the sesame seed. It has anti-estrogenic aspect to it, which if someone has that testosterone estrogen imbalance, this could help with that. Then of course you have tahini you can make out of that. The pine nuts. You have for the cardiovascular system, for the arginine as an arginine source, for the nitric oxide boosting. That's also considered an herb in Chinese medicine. It's so nutrient dense. And then pine trees are very special. The pecans, loaded with minerals and antioxidants, B vitamins, great with honey and cinnamon. And now for the phospholipids from the egg yolks, you're going to get that. We were talking about the cell membranes earlier, how the phospholipids make the cell membranes more permeable. You can also get phospholipid supplements, the phosphatidylserine sourced from sunflowers and non-GMO soy. So and also the marine phytoplankton, as earlier mentioned. Grass-fed butter, aged cheese, a way to get your fat-soluble vitamins into your diet. And then for the free-ranging ruminant animals, you got the higher in omega-3 than the ones that are farm-raised. And you're also getting the conjugated linoleic acid in the free-range animals, and that's great for dropping excess body fat. So it revs up your metabolism. That's why the Native Americans probably were so lean, because they had a lot of that CLA in their diet. If you want to go take a deeper dive, that's like the nerd book of fats right there. That's where you go. That's a big, thick one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one will take you some places. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the anti-estrogenic diet, so that kind of gets into how to use the fats to get the estrogen balance right for both men and women. And as we age, we tend to get more estrogenic, and being excessively estrogenic is where you get the reproductive organ cancers for both men and women. So that's a good. So that's it right there.
Wow.
So I'm going to ask everybody to please don't leave anything here. Make sure you bring all your belongings with you, your shoes included.